good?
Yep.
I want to thank you for your patience. We're running a few minutes late due to an executive session that we just had regarding personnel. At this time, we'll stand for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This time we'll have a moment of silence. Tammy, would you call the roll call, please?
Patty Anderson.
Here.
Carrie Armagost. Here. Megan Dreher. Here. Brady Fight. Diane Page.
Here.
Jeff Powell. Jermaine Stump.
Here.
Oh, Jeff Powell's here. Jermaine Stump.
Here.
Eric Sunling.
Here.
And Kelly Terwilliger.
Here. Thank you. Do I have a motion to waive the reading and approve the official minutes from the August 21st voting meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Second. Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion about the minutes? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. I do not believe we have any public participation this evening. And you'll notice we already had our presentation. That was last week at the workshop from Bobby at Farmers National Bank. So I'll move on to board concerns. I have one item to share with you, and I made you a copy. This is the information this week. This year, the advocacy day is now a week with the legislature. So I printed this off for you. It explains how to register and what the schedule is going to be. So if anybody can participate, it would be great. Let us know. Well, I'll leave one here for Brady because I think he is coming. I believe the day on site this year will be, I think it's that Wednesday that week. And the rest of it then is online. So if you can participate online, that would be great. Are there any other board concerns? Okay, not hearing any, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Are there any items that you want removed to be voted on separately? I'm going to ask if we can pull B, only because I need to abstain from B, voting. Can we vote on it separately? Is everybody okay with that? Okay, so we'll do the consent agenda, looking at A, C, D, E, and F. Do I have a motion to accept?
I'll make a motion that we accept the consent agenda with all items except letter B.
Anything you want to discuss out of that consent agenda? If not, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. All right, we'll vote on letter B, which are those people that we're adding to the substitute list. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve all of the individuals listed under item B.
Second. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions would be me. Thank you. Okay, we will move on to finance and purchase. Meg, would you lead us in that?
Sure. I'm going to lump letters A through F together to make a motion to approve those.
Second. Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
G, consideration to approve the general fund checking account moving into a public sector analysis account with a target balance of $200,000 and $550,000 additional sweep. So
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
H, consideration to approve the donation from the Scrubgrass Presbyterian Church in the amount of $400 for overdue lunch account balances as attached.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on that? Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
I, consideration to approve removing Emily Shoemaker from the high school activities account. So moved.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
J, consideration to approve adding Melissa Morrison to the high school activities account. So moved.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Okay, consideration to approve the price quote number 314446 from Image Learning in the amount of $30,300 effective November 1st, 2023 through August 31st, 2024 for 101 licenses for the WSTU Western Secure Treatment Unit facility as attached. So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
This would be contingent on the opening of the Western Secure Treatment Facility. This would be enough license to house the educational program up at the facility. They are taught by PA certified teachers, and they're following a Pennsylvania curriculum aligned to the state standards as well.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Kelly?
Yes.
He just messaged, he isn't going to be able to make it. Is there a link he can call in or something? Aaron? Thank you.
Let him know Aaron will send it to
The
you.
man behind the curtain says, so great honest.
Yes, I see that. Thanks for seeing that message. Okay, we're gonna move on to personnel. I know that's a lot, Carrie, so.
Okay, I'll read fast.
You got water there you need to
I
drink?
do, I'm good. Letter A, consideration to accept letter of resignation as assistant junior high boys basketball coach from Caleb Penny as attached. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Consideration to approve advertising for an assistant junior high boys basketball coach. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Letter C, consideration to approve the elementary secretary job description as attached. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries.
Letter D, consideration to approve the junior senior high school secretary job description as attached. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Letter E, consideration to approve the request from Tracy Patton to be approved as senior high student council advisor at a supplemental salary of $1,170 as attached. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
F, consideration to approve the request from Minnie Logue to be approved as junior high student council advisor at a supplemental salary of $761 as attached. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Consideration to approve the following seniors' number of hours and cost per student with regard to the AmeriCorps program as follows. Co-op working 3 hours, cost share initially $1,800. The 6 students will each have a cost share of $1,400 paid by Title IV. Hannah Hyphen, Bell McLean, Sophia McGarvey, Henry Stavanis, Jackson Sunland, and Easton Wingard. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Eric, you should abstain. So I abstain.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Sorry.
Letter H, consideration to approve the rate of pay for a nurse as follows. LPN $25 per hour and RN $35 per hour beginning with the 2023-24 school year. So moved.
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion?
That's just for substitutes, correct?
Yes,
It's for
correct.
substitute pay right here.
Yes.
Do I need to amend that to say substitute?
You probably should not have said that.
All right, so I will make a motion to consider to approve the rate of pay for a substitute nurse as follows. LPN $25 per hour and RN $35 per hour beginning with the 2023-24 school year. So, second.
Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Letter I, consideration to approve hiring James Best as maintenance director at a prorated salary for the remainder of the 2023-24 school year of $57,500 beginning on November 1st, 2023. All required paperwork is currently on file in the district office. So, second.
Moved in seconded. Any discussion?
Does James agree with that?
All those in favor? Aye. Okay, opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Letter J, consideration to approve Daniel White as assistant to the maintenance director at a stipend of $2,500 prorated for the remainder of the 2023-24 school year, beginning November 1st, 2023. All required paperwork is currently on file in the district office. So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
One question. Is there a list of that you approve specifically?
We're working on that. I sent out a memo to the school board as far as all his skills and what he can provide in there.
skills, but I didn't know if there was something specific for that.
James and I is going to be working on that list so that we can be able to, explain that and expect, additional support from you.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Letter K, consideration to approve hiring Matt Cribble upon receipt of all appropriate documentation as maintenance technician at a prorated salary for the remainder of the 2023-2024 school year of $45,500. So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Letter L, consideration to approve hiring Kimberly Colwell upon receipt of all appropriate documentation as a part-time permanent cafeteria worker contingent upon a 60-workday probationary period at an hourly rate of $15.54. Upon completion of the 60-workday probationary period, the hourly rate will be $16.54 per hour. So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Letter M, consideration to approve hiring Darren Schmoll upon receipt of all appropriate documentation as a part-time 3.5-hour per day lunch monitor in the high school building at an hourly rate of $13.33 per hour. So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Letter N, consideration to approve hiring Judy Morrison upon receipt of all appropriate documentation as a part-time 3.5-hour per day lunch monitor at the elementary building, contingent at an hourly rate of $13.33 per hour. So moved.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Can I insert that once Darren starts, that will alleviate Karen Hetrick from her lunch duty, am I correct? Which we talked about. Okay. Thank you, Bill.
Letter O, consideration to approve hiring Jess Quinn upon receipt of all appropriate documentation as head varsity boys basketball coach at a supplemental salary of $5,820. So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Letter B, consideration to approve advertising for the following anticipated openings. High school certified in the following areas: art, business, culinary arts, English, history, library and math, music, physical education / health, science and special education, school counselor, K-12 principal, and a paraprofessional for placement at the Western Secure Treatment Unit facility. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? This is a work in progress, so as things progress, we'll keep you updated, but
I do have a question. Do we look into hiring any aides at all to the classrooms, or do we not think we need?
Yeah, potentially. We did put down paraprofessionals, just because that's a more universal term.
Okay. I must have missed that. Thank you.
Sure thing. And we will be posting internal and external at the same time for 10 days.
okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Letter Q, consideration to approve advertising for a part-time child-specific aid. So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
I had Dr. Mays as well as Mrs. Sherman approach me about additional support that we need down here at the elementary. Some of the smaller or the larger 2 teacher per grade level classes are seeing some additional supports that the students may need. And I'm not sure, Mrs. Sherman, if you want to speak on that.
Yeah, I had it for part of my elementary report, but I'm happy to talk about it now. It's in the blue folders that are at your desk, your table. It's just kind of our beginning of year data reports. We had our data meetings last week to review where the students were coming in. So the bar graphs that are colored like this are from our reading specialists, Mrs. Sunley and Mrs. Bartlett. We had a problem with the number of licenses that we had for that program. So the current year's data was kind of tallied by hand, and that's what you see written on the sides. And we do not have this year's kindergarten's data just yet. But, so these bar graphs are actually the historical data. At the top, you'll see which grade it is. So at the top of the one on the front of your page, it should say kindergarten. So those are the kindergarten scores clear back to 2015-16 through last year. And if you can take a look at the very last one, at the beginning of the year, kindergarten came in at 65% last year and ended their year at 73%. And if you turn the page, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's our current first grade. They came in kindergarten at that. So if you go to the next page.
And is that, what's that percentage? Is that rating on grade level or?
Yes. So that's showing that they are where they needed to be entering kindergarten. And I'm sorry, it's the 21-22 would be the ones that we're looking at for first grade this year. So you can see where they came in. And if you flip the page, they're now at 67% going into first grade. So last year in kindergarten, they entered at 65, ended at 73, and they came in this year at 67. So that's pretty good. It's showing that there wasn't a lot of learning loss over the summer. And kind of first grade is where they need to be at the beginning of the year. They came from 3 kindergartens, and they're now into 2 first grades. So we'll follow them to see that their scores stay up. The next one, though, is our current second grade. And this is where we're needing some help. They came in to start this year at 34% and ended last year at 50%. And when they were in kindergarten, they ended at 58%. So they have shown a decline. And we have them in 2 rooms still. And I believe there are 46 of them, so there's about 23 in a room. And they do not have aid currently. They do get push-in help from I think they get pull-out help from Mrs. Layshaw. But we are also using Mrs. Layshaw to push in pretty frequently in kindergarten and first grade, because of some learning support needs that we have in those two grades. If you recall, Carrie Forsythe came and spoke to us about the incoming kindergarten and the high level of needs that we be seeing there, and that has certainly proven to be true. So we do have quite a bit of help going down to kindergarten to address those needs, both behavioral and academic. So I'm not gonna take you the whole way through this, but you kind of get the gist of it. We'll show you where they came in at and where they're at now. Behind that is Mr. Heil's data. This is a different looking kind of chart. On his data, the only measure that we've had consistently for the 3 years is the I-rated scores. Acadians, this is our first year using that for math. We've been using it for several years with ELA. And then his ICANN, this is his second year of using that. So they each measure kind of different things, but the I-rated we have the 3-year average on. So he did do an overall sheet that has K1, 2, and 3 for the last 3 years. But if you look at the sheet, it has the beginning of the year as a composite for the whole building, and then it breaks it down into kindergarten first and second. Looking at the I-rating, that's the one that tells us if they're on grade level or prepared when they come in. So our kindergartners are showing that about 89.6% of them are strategic, which means they're not quite where they should be coming in, but they're not intensive yet. When he did the Acadians majors, it broke it down a little bit further, looked a little bit better in 4, but it was showing 18.7 of them were intensive. In first grade, the I-rating showed none of them were at 4, and all of them, most of them were strategic, a few in the intensives. The new major that we're using, the Acadians, puts just under half of them at strategic and intensive. And then second grade, which is where we have some big concerns, they were showing on I-rating that almost 90% of them are strategic or intensive, and 42% almost in the intensive category on the I-rating. And even Acadians was putting 65% of them in the strategic or intensive area. So we have some pretty high needs there. And I know Mrs. Quayle has already approached me and Mrs. Scott about needing some help in there. So I included sort of a skeleton of our schedule. I took out all the core things just to show you how we're using the supports that we have. So the sort of rust brown color there is our English language arts tier 1 and tier 2 and 3 interventions. Tier 2 and 3 we used to call them in time, and we're still calling it that. So if you see kindergarten first, second, and third all have an hour-long block of that rust color. 30 minutes of that is still when or what I need time. So the reading specialists are pulling the students, and they typically have groups of 5 that they work with then. The other 30 minutes of that is for them to push in to each of those grade levels. And then the blue is the same thing except with Mr. Heil, with math. 30 minutes of that is win time, where students are put into groups based on what they need, and the other 30 minutes is for them to push in. So what that means overall is we did increase how we're using our supports in K through 3. So they're getting basically an extra 30 minutes of help during ELA and an extra 30 minutes during math. But what that does is decreases their availability elsewhere. 6th grade, Mrs. Longo is a reading specialist, so she talked with Mrs. Barlett and Mrs. Sunley, and she is doing their own win time at the very beginning of the day. That alleviated needing to use Mrs. Barlett and Mrs. Sunley in 6th grade. 5th grade and 4th grade are still getting 30 minutes of win time like they did in the past. But that stretches my specialists out. They don't have any free time at all to go and help push in or intervene as things pop up. They are designated to these rooms now. Additionally, we've also designated Sarah Henry, our Title VIII, to some rooms. And in the past, we used to be able to kind of pull her if we had a sub-crisis or we we can cover a room, we can pull her out and have her cover a room for the day. Technically still could do that because she's not IEP driven in the room she's in. But I've told Mrs. Ehart only in extreme emergencies because they need her to alleviate these like group situations so they can do some of these differentiated learning situations. But the other problem is we have no subs basically. I mean, there's not very many anyway. So on a day that we have like a lot of IEP meetings and we have to cover teachers through those IEP meetings, if we have call-offs in addition to that, we now only have like 2 rooms of most grades. And we used to be able to like split a room and the other 2 teachers could take it. So let's say first grade, Mrs. Fox calls on, then we're down to just Miss Rankin and all of first grade. So I can't give one teacher 40 kids without some help. But I pull aides down to help her, then I'm pulling them away from IEP needs. So we talked about today being this house of cards that we have everybody assigned where they need to be and we have things as covered as possible. But the second somebody calls off or, another need pops up, it all falls apart. In second grade, really could use some additional help that, we've done the best we could to get them what they need, but it's tight. So the halftime aid that Brandon is asking for is to meet additional IEP needs that have popped up since the year started. I would like to say that we could use a full-time, if not full-time and a half, to meet the needs of the whole building. Especially in rooms where we have 2 classrooms and more class sizes. I'm just not getting that data. I know they go through everything. Well, I guess the one little bit of bright spot. On the PSSA data at the end, the one grade that we had kind of focused in on was our current 4th grade because they were the ones who were in kindergarten when COVID hit, and in this end of kindergarten, a lot of first grade in person anyway. And we really threw a lot of our supports in them over the last couple of years. And if you look at 3rd grade's spring results from last year, depending on whose numbers you looked at, 64 to 66% of them were proficient or advanced in math and 70 in ELA, which was better or equal to the class before them. So it was a big celebration for us that we had made such gains with them and filled those gaps. So that those kinds of supports are what we're trying to do for different grades for K1 and 2 now. And 3rd grade still needs some help because there are 2 rooms now and have some behaviors. So we can do it, we just need the help to get there.
Okay. All right, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? All right, motion carries.
Okay, R, consideration to approve the district secretary's job description as attached. So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Consideration to approve the advertising in-house for full-time district-wide secretary contingent on the opening of the Western Secure Treatment Unit facility. So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? This person would stay here, though. They would not be going to,
There'd probably be a liaison between the 2 that work half their day at the high school and then come down here to do billing. But there may be some interaction between the 2 facilities. I don't know if you'd consider that person a runner or
Okay.
transferring paperwork back and forth, but they would be going between the 2.
okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I think Brady said an aye there.
Aye. Approved, Rose.
Thank you, Brady. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. All right, thank you for doing that whole list for us, Carrie. And we'll move on to instructional services. Jameen, would you like to do those?
Sure.
Elementary report, you gave a lot of it.
Yeah, that was the biggest chunk of it, but I do have a few other things. I wanted to share that on last Friday, September 15th, I attended the Clarion County Truancy meeting hosted by Judge Seidel Patton at the Clarion Courthouse. She was outlining for us the new protocol that she plans to implement for Clarion County, hoping to get students back in school when they're habitually truant. It's going to involve the court being more involved and require families to have a commitment to the program, and they'll meet every couple of weeks with the judge or one of her appointees. And it's very similar to the Nango County's program. That way they can avoid the truancy consequences like fines and different things. So she kind of outlined that whole program for us. It would only apply to our students who reside in Clarion County, even though we take all truancy cases to Clarion County District Magistrate. Only the ones who live in Clarion County could be a part of that program. But Venango County does have an outreach program that's very similar with the same goal of getting kids in school. So between those two, we do reach a majority of our students. It'd be nice, Armstrong, all those students have some programs, but I did share the notes with Mrs. Austin and Dr. Jordan so that we were all aware of the new protocol. On September 29th, we are going to welcome the ACV Youth Football and Cheer Program to the building for a pep rally. This is the second year that they're doing this pep rally for the school. It was well received last year by students and staff, and we enjoy supporting the cheer and football players involved in the program here in the building. And lastly, just a reminder that our open house is October 5th from 4:30 to 6:30 here in the elementary, and that's also an in-service day for teachers, so the students won't be in class, but we'd love to see them in the evening from 4:30 to 6:30 with their families. And that's all I have.
Great, thank you. The secondary report.
I also held my data meetings at the high school for both ELA and math. Just to give you an idea of what we do when we hold these meetings is we try to gather as much information as possible to be able to identify and isolate barriers to student performance. So we will use PSSA data, we use beginning of the year benchmark testing data to see where students are starting. We use AP data, any piece of information that we can get that gives us an idea of where students are and where we want them to go. We pull into these meetings to discuss that. The ELA, when I met with them, we set some pretty high goals that were intended to try to boost the proficient scores on state mandated testing from proficient to advanced. One thing that we've noticed since we, back 6 years ago, adopted the state framework was we have slowly been bringing up basic level scores up into the proficient level. But sadly, we've also seen a trend where the advanced kids are going from advanced down into the proficient area. So one of the goals for this year is to look at the curriculum for the honors classes, for instance, English 9 honors and 10 honors, and look at the curriculum and how we're presenting that. And it's more than just speeding up the curriculum and covering more. It's more about providing rigor in that particular course. So making things, students dive into things more as far as their critical thinking ability and analysis of the content. So that's one of the things that we will be looking at this year to try to boost that proficient into the advanced category to a higher level. One of the reasons that we're doing that is because when the state calculates our building score for the year, they take into consideration how many students, what percentage of students perform at the advanced level. It's not just proficient, but also the advanced part as well. For math, we decided that we would review the curriculum in that area too, and look for ways to align the amount of time spent on a topic with how much that particular topic is weighted on the exam, the PSSA exam. So for instance, there are certain categories that are worth a ton of points. In other words, it's heavily weighted on the PSSA test. And so we're looking at the amount of time that we've invested in that compared to time invested in topics that maybe they only have one single question on that PSSA test. So if it's an absolute necessary topic, we definitely want to cover it, but we don't want to spend a ton of time on a question or a topic that only has one question or very few points. Whereas those ones that are more heavily weighted, we want to spend more time on that and make sure that students are getting the performance that we need them to get. In other news, Mrs. Bashline has worked with her students to create a school store for the faculty and staff. This store will make available items such as coffee, tea, morning treats for a low cost that will simply cover the cost of those treats. This is done completely run by her students in her classroom, and it works on things like organizational skills, money management, social skills, because they actually reach out to the teachers and have discussions with them, delivering those treats where needed. So it's a great way for those students to learn those things in real life situations. The store, which is called the Falcon's Nest, will take orders early in the morning and provide treats for the next day. Friday, I think Laura mentioned it, Friday is the middle of the first 9 weeks, so progress notes will be going out next Friday.
I can't believe that.
As far as athletics go, I will be submitting school enrollment numbers to the PIAA starting October 1st. This is the information that the PIAA uses to set classifications for schools. And those numbers go into the next cycle, which is the 23-24 school year, or I'm sorry, 24-25 school year and 25-26 school year. I don't foresee us changing. Our numbers remain pretty stagnant, but our co-op sports may be altered because of that. What they do is they take the numbers completely across the state and they break it into the different categories, just simply based upon the same percentage of schools in each of those categories. The classifications will be released early in 2024, and I will let you know how that goes when they do that. And that completes my report.
Great, thank you. Do we have a federal coverage report?
Yes, I just wanted to update everybody on our grants that we have coming in this year. Title I, we will be receiving $192,706. Title II grant, $21,227. Title IV, $15,357. And the Ready to Learn grant is $151,489. And that's all I have.
Great, thank you. The district report.
Thanks, Jermaine. I just have 3 items. I'm going to address the budget stalemate, Basic Ed Funding Commission, and then House Bill 907. Just an update on the PA budget. On August 3rd, the governor signed a $45.5 billion budget, and that included $597.4 million into the Basic Ed funding, $50 million for special education funding, $7.5 million for Ready to Learn block grants, and $14 million for career and technical education. But without the full budget pass, there's $1.1 billion sitting in the general appropriation budget or in Harrisburg that requires school code. So the current status is there's 2 versions of a school code sitting in Harrisburg right now. It's with the Senate. There's Senate Bill 757, and it includes vouchers and the EITC program, which is just sitting there idle. And then there's House Bill 1300, which has the Basic Ed Funding Commission associated with it, an extension for the moratorium for the Plan Con, and a couple other items. And it doesn't necessarily address the entire $1.1 billion. So everybody's at odds in Harrisburg, and the budget's not moving anywhere. So more to come on that, but that's tied right into a very important commission that was created right now, the Basic Education Funding Commission. And like Kelly shared earlier, advocacy right now is more important than ever before. So in 2023, the Basic Education Funding Commission is charged with reviewing the distribution of state funding for basic education in all 500 schools. They're going to provide a report of its findings to the General Assembly on November 30th, 2023. In 2016, the General Assembly enacted the Basic Education Funding Formula. So hold harmless is still in place. So all that baseline level funding that we've received years ago will never receive less, but any additional new money goes through the fair funding formula. It takes a look at the student population, the district size, its ability to raise taxes, and the district's fair share of funds that are tied into the General Assembly. And then the original formula is in its eighth year right now. So there's a 15-member group, and they've already had 2 hearings and continue to have more hearings. And I'll have that information and results from those hearings in your board minutes. Their report's going to be a overview on how to meet the moral and constitutional requirements to ensure every student in the state of Pennsylvania is provided with a comprehensive, effective, and contemporary public education. So there's a lot of discussion going on. The first meeting was on September 12th in Allentown. The second meeting was in Harrisburg on September 13th. And I believe they'll be coming to Pittsburgh on October 11th. So they have a lot, and that's tied into the fair funding lawsuit. So there's a whole lot with funding of public education going on, and a lot of disagreements on how to fund it appropriately. And then to finish off today, just an overview of House Bill 907. It was referred to the Senate Education Committee. This piece of legislation aims to enhance the protection of our students by implementing a security presence in all publicly funded schools. The presence will consist of at least one armed, trained, and vetted school security personnel. And Jermaine, that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
So we need to do this, vote on this, correct? Consideration to retroactively approve the agreement between the Keystone Spas Community Learning Center Incorporated and the Allegheny Prairie Valley School District 2023 to 2024 AmeriCorps Host Site Agreement dated August 22nd, 2023 as attached.
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
And we don't need to vote on that, just making us aware that we need to look at those numbers, correct?
Correct.
And I do not see a student board representative here this evening. We don't have a report from them.
No.
And the school committee report, I saw that it's laying in the desk, do you have?
No, speak for itself.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to policy. Diane, can I ask you to do policy?
Sure.
You can group some of those if you would like.
I'm gonna lump A, B, and C together. Consideration to approve the second reading of policy number 006, policy number 216.1, policy number 251. So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
D and E, and then lump those together.
Hang on a second. I was waiting. I didn't hear from either one. Okay. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
I'm gonna lump D and E together. Consideration to approve the first reading of policy number 622 and policy 304.1. So moved. Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion? I was just wondering on the nepotism one, should we add, at the beginning, it talks about hiring relatives of superintendent and school board members. Should we add administrators to that?
You good?
Just because I think it applies in all cases. Would you guys agree or?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll change that.
So if we can just add that to it.
Yep.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Okay. I guess we do. Patty, would you do the facilities for us?
No major. Do it, Patty.
Sorry, you're lucky.
Eric's looking at me like, am I next? Am I next? I'll tell you what, you can lump these. I would say you can lump all the bus contracts as one and the van contracts as one, and I don't think you need to read them all. You can just kind of summarize if you would like.
So all the extracurricular
Yes.
ones, okay. So I'm gonna lump A through D together. Consideration to approve the extracurricular activities transportation contract with Stanley A. Bailey as attached, so moved. Consideration to approve the contract with Bobber Busing as attached. Transportation, extracurricular transportation with Jennifer Collender, DBA Collender Transportation. And consideration to approve contract with Mark and Jane Cook as attached, so moved.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Letter E has to stand alone, is that correct?
Yeah, it can't, yes.
Okay. Consideration to retroactively approve Career Center Transportation contract between AC Valley School District and Bailey Busing Company dated August 23rd, 2023 is attached. So moved.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Going to lump F through J together for the bus contracts. Bus to retroactively approve the contracts with Bobber Busing, with Bailey Busing, Collier Transportation, Martha Jane Cook, and Marcia Pollack for bus number 4. So moved.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Going to lump K through O together for the van transportation. Van contract with Michelle Islet, the van contracts with Irwin Transportation, Randy McClendon, Pam Myers Transportation, and Kelly Stavanis. So moved.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you, Eric. All right, Patty, I'm going to move back to you since you had a very short position job there. Would you do miscellaneous for us?
For salary report. We welcome David back as our, I still call it chief school administrator, sorry, superintendent of record. So that was his first meeting in person. There's just a lot of housekeeping type things for this school year starting. And again, we had the same discussion about nurses and the wages. And she's now, they're struggling with substitute nurses there as well. So things seem to be off on a very good start. Our enrollment numbers are great. They have some classes, some shops that still have waiting lists, which is great to hear. So anything else? Maybe we need
No, I think that summarizes it quite well.
intermediate year.
Not much of any, significance at our last meeting was the first meeting with Sean Aljo, as the Assistant Executive Director. He was very interactive in the meeting and really, very personable. It's the first time I had an opportunity to meet him.
He was great, yeah.
Yeah, you guys made a good hire.
Career center.
Yep, so very excited to work with Sean. We had some personnel hirings and things like that, but that was about it.
Correspondence that we have going on. Okay. Technology. We met last week. Let me look at my notes here. David, you can please jump in if, we checked on current status of things, the phone update, right as of now, everything seems to be working well. They still need to put in the 2 courtesy phones that we talked about so the students can access after sports events or practices that they can call home. So they're still putting those in. Those calls will be recorded and they'll be posting signs to let people know so that whatever happens on those phones, it will be a recorded message, so we won't have access to it if something should be said that shouldn't be said. There is a WebEx phone app that's being put on any device for the admins and nurses that they can, no matter where they are, they have communication. Unfortunately, the last busing thing we looked at still does not work as far as a good communication between our bus drivers and Lori and the school. So that's still a work in progress. I think it's going to be very difficult because of the terrain in our area. They're working on getting the outside Wi-Fi set up. And we talked about a guest access for a scheduled time, which would be after school, so that parents and students that are here after school would have access to Wi-Fi. So Jeff and Aaron are working on that. They're in the middle of switching from Meraki to Ubiquiti, which is the maintenance software that runs that Wi-Fi connection. They did get the safety equipment, which is going to give us better communication for lockdown emergencies. That'll be installed, the emergency button, flashing lights, that kind of thing that was written in through the grant. They're going to put a light on the marquee as well. David's working on the Safe Schools grant writing to update the camera system because our cameras are pretty old and there's new technology out there to make it a lot easier to manage and use when you're trying to look for things. They talked about how we're actually upgrading 100 Chromebooks per year to kind of keep in the 3-year replacement life cycle, which is usually 10th grade and what was the other grade?
7th grade.
Was it 7th and 10th? Okay, at the high school. Currently, the 9th through 12th graders take the Chromebooks home. They're looking at upgrades and projector replacement, possibly with some AARP and ESSER money. They may replace some of the interactive projectors with big screen TVs, lower cost, and they don't have all the functionality, but some of the teachers aren't using all that functionality. If they don't need it, then we'll go with something a little less expensive that'll do the same job. Let's see. Mike, we talked about whether or not as this progresses with the new facility, if we're going to need to hire some extra tech support, and we may be looking at that because Jeff and Aaron have their hands full here. The technology over there, we'll have to work with the rope people and see how that's all going to sync together. We may be looking at hiring 2 or 3 days tech support. We will be responsible for the equipment, so that'll be something that will be budgeted in, the computers or the Chromebooks that those students receive. That facility, though, is already wired, and I don't know if we pay for the technology access or rope does, but
We haven't had that discussion.
so that'll be ironed out as to who pays for that internet access, et cetera. And the last thing was the printing contract. Our printing costs have gotten pretty high, so we're looking at some ways to help maybe alleviate some of the printing that's happening that's unnecessary. Possibly paper cut, which is a software that will guide and direct how many copies students can have, et cetera, to maybe alleviate some of our color copying and things that are copied that are not really necessary. Move them more towards using the copiers than printing from a printer. It's cheaper to use a copier than it is to print to the printer. So that, I think, was everything.
Yeah, that was good. That was a good report.
Hey, Kelly, I have just something to add with the school bus situation. I don't know if this is something, I would assume you guys have probably looked into it, but Starlink now has like an RV compatible Wi-Fi that is like mobile. And we just got Starlink at our house down in West Monterey, well, across the rivers, but same scenario. And it works great. So
Okay.
I didn't know if maybe something Wi-Fi compatible, if, you know, you could get that RV Starlink and have it just on the bus. And they would have some type of Wi-Fi compatible communication that might work.
Aaron, did you catch that?
Yeah, we'll look into it.
Okay.
Good luck.
Not passing the buck, but it's moving on to Aaron.
Yeah, so you can, whatever you can do, if it's not iPhone or FaceTime or whatever.
Thanks. We're trying to find something that will work, so.
Athletic committee update.
We had a meeting at the end of last month on the 29th. And two of the things we discussed thoroughly was the hiring of coaches process, who pays for advertising, where do we advertise, that whole process going down through there. We also discussed the third assistant coach for the junior high football based upon numbers. And finally, we discussed volunteers, limiting volunteers, how volunteers are approved, which side approves them first, that type of thing. And try to eliminate those that maybe, volunteer on a team just so they can get a really good spot at a sporting event. And that's it.
Football renovation.
We haven't met. I submitted that grant application. I've not heard back one way or the other.
Is there a way for you to contact the manager to see what, because it was supposed to be awarded, right?
I'm not sure. I'll have to look into that and report back. I don't know
It's like
when.
it was the end of,
Yeah, we got it submitted before the application deadline. I'm not sure when they're going to go through the award process, but I'll check into it and report back.
finance committee update.
We just met with Bobby Harding from Farmers National Bank, and you heard that update with the accounts.
Okay, do we have any old business? Any new business? Before I forget, Tammy laid the PSBA bulletin magazines up here if anybody would like to take one with them. Those are for you guys.
I was just curious to see how things are going with the band program at the high school, with the transition. I will say, I don't know if anybody else has been to a football game this year, but
Amazing.
the band looks fantastic. So
Good.
everybody's doing great, seeing them all out there as one unit, and band directors out there on the field together. It's really been great to see. So they sound great too.
And then a few kids I've interacted with have been pro.
Yeah. So I was,
That's zero complaints, and students seem to love it.
Good. Okay. Any other new business? All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us, Jeff and Brady.
Yeah.
Have a good